Good morning, everybody. Global News is reporting an update to the Danforth shooter incident. I don't know, they don't call it anything more than that, which is interesting in light of the new information. And we've got another immigration report to get to from the National Post. I want to point something out. Candice Malcom does an excellent job dissecting this article. And we'll start off with her tweet to shed some light on where we're or what this new information looks like. She says, quote, "Remember when the left-wing Toronto media immediately ruled out terrorism and condemned anyone who questioned their made-up narrative that the Danforth shooter had a, quote, $1 million smile and his deadly rampage was motivated by mental illness? Well, a new report destroys that idea." So that's what sent me down this rabbit hole. But her entire dissection of this is worth the read. Link is in the description. So here's the Global News article. It says, ammunition catch, including loaded AK-47 magazines found at home of Danforth shooter, police documents. And nearly 6 months after the Danforth shooting, newly unsealed search warrants show that police discovered a cache of ammunition, including fully loaded AK-47 magazines in shooter Faisal Hussein's bedroom. The new details of the Danforth shooting investigation, released Tuesday, were previously redacted by the Crown and shed new light on the shooting that killed 18-year-old Reese Fallon and 10-year-old Julianne Kozis and injured 13 others. The unsealed portion of the information to obtain orders, ITO, for Hussein's home revealed that police found 2 fully loaded AK-47 magazines, 2 loaded 9mm magazines, 2 loaded drum magazines, 3 fully loaded extended magazines, and additional types of shotgun ammunition. Police believed the discovery of the ammunition indicated the presence of other types of firearm. To date, investigators have only said that a handgun was found at the scene. Quote, "It is reasonable to believe that when fully loaded magazines are located, there would be a firearm or firearms parts in the residence," investigators said, according to the search warrants. Locating that firearm and ammunition would provide further evidence of planning and preparation for the offense, or of the offense. An empty gun box was also found in the bedroom, along with a long gun case, a number of cell phones, and white powder that police suspected was cocaine. Joyoung Lee, an associated professor of sociology at the University of Toronto, said the AK-47 and its variants are parts of a prohibited class of firearm in Canada, and the ammunition may have come from the U.S. Quote, "This suggests, at least from a bird's-eye view, that this individual may have gotten this ammunition from somebody who was smuggling ammunition and firearms from the United States," said Lee. He also called for more long-term studies on where guns used in Canadian crimes originate from. More studies. Back to the article. According to police, Hussein, 29, opened fire with a handgun in Toronto's Danforth neighborhood, a bustling area of bars and restaurants, on July 22nd. He shot himself in the head after exchanging gunfire with police. Global News has previously reported that the handgun found at the scene was a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson stolen in Saskatchewan in 2016. Conspiracy DVDs found. This part I found really interesting. They're trying to tie him to the right wing. They're trying to make him a right wing person right now. This is what this paragraph, next 2 paragraphs talk about. And I thought, wow, really? You're going to try and do that? Interesting. Back to the article. As police continued to search for a motive, the newly released details of the investigation showed that police seized videos about Iraq and 9/11 conspiracy theories in Hussein's bedroom. The DVDs included films by the American conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, such as The Road to Tyranny, which promotes the claim of government involvement in September 11th, 2001 attacks. A popular right-wing conspiracist, Jones and his InfoWars show were banned from Apple, Facebook, and YouTube last year. Other DVDs found in the apartment were titled Loose Change and 9/11 in Plain Sight. Both also offer up discredited conspiracies about Al-Qaeda attacks in the United States. So he's right-wing, and those things are discredited. Don't look them up. They're totally discredited. Totally discredited. Yeah, back to the article. The types of documentaries police found are popular in the right-wing anti-authority movement, said Professor Barbara Perry, a hate crime expert at the University of Ontario Institution of Technology. Quote, "That's one of the common places you'll find these sorts of conspiracy theories," she said. Conspiracies about the 9/11 attacks, which were orchestrated by Osama bin Laden and his terrorist organization, also persist in the Arab world and countries such as Iran. The search turned up 2 receipts for $9,300 for cash payments to the Abad Cooperative Housing Society in Rawalpindi, Pakistan. The receipts were labeled mosque fund, membership fee, transfer, pillars, and form fees. The court documents add to the portrait of Hussein, who police describe as a troubled loner captivated by violence and explosions. Okay, hold on. He's sending money to a mosque. And in the next, a mosque is a group of people who all share the same ideology and the same thoughts and prayers and all this other stuff, they are by definition a group of people, just like a church, right? They're a community. A church is a community. And particularly in this light, you're seriously going to still call him a loner? Like, what? It seems like, don't believe your eyes, don't believe your ears. They lie to you, right? Listen to what we're telling you. He's a loner. Don't worry about that cash payment to the mosque there. He's acting alone. Really? You think so? Okay. He's captivated by violence and explosions, this loner. They show that while Hussein had no criminal record, he had several run-ins with the law that included an arrest for shoplifting 2 days before the shooting. He was let go unconditionally. It's interesting that he had no criminal record, yet 2 days before he was arrested for shoplifting. Do those two things make sense to you, or are they contradictory? I think they're contradictory. I mean, he may have no criminal record, but why is the record saying that he was arrested for shoplifting 2 days prior? If he had no criminal record. Weird, right? Police, back to the article. Police were also called to Hussein's apartment 3 times in 2010 to deal with, quote, an emotionally disturbed person, according to the documents. The Toronto Police and the province's Special Investigation Unit are conducting separate investigations into the Danforth tragedy, also probably a terrorist attack. Neither has offered a timeline on when their work might be completed. Toronto Police did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the new information, and Monica Hudden, a spokesperson for SIU, said their investigation was ongoing. So interesting. 6 months later, and they don't know what possibly could motivate Mr. Hussein. And yeah, he made some payments to a mosque, but he's totally acting alone, totally a lone wolf, just loves explosions and right-wing conspiracy theories. He's totally a right-winger. Yeah, those right-wing, terrible mosque-paying people, right? Candice Malcom, again, does a good breakdown of this and points out the flaws and the holes in this ridiculous... I don't even know if it's a cover-up or if they're just this lost that they're not willing to do their own investigations and point out the obvious connections to Pakistan and look further into those connections. Are those something that influenced this attack? Is this something that is more than is being reported? I have no idea, but I'm asking for journalists to do their job rather than reporting what the party line is. Here is National Post reporting. This is the immigration story, and this is an opinion piece by Barbara Kay, and it was printed today, January 16th, at 6 a.m. She's up bright and early. Barbara Kay says, "Don't ever question mass immigration or you'll be instantly racist." Well, I'm a racist. You're a racist for watching me, probably. And welcome to the new normal, everybody, right? Like I said, put on your armor and get used to it. That's the current climate that we live in. Even if you support, you are going to be attacked by people who disagree with you even a little bit, right? There's not a lot of difference between Mr. Scheer and Mr. Bernier, but the difference is enough to be a difference. And the people who believe in Mr. Scheer are going to pull his, hold his water, and Mr. Bernier as well. And I've seen conflicts already between the two groups. So it comes from all sides, whether you're a Scheer supporter or a Bernier supporter or right wing or left wing. Have your armor on. Be able to defend your ideas. That's what I mean by that, right? I don't mean actually strap armor on. I mean, have your argument as sharp as it can be. And if you hear a better argument, have your ears open. Listen, because that sharpens your argument, right? And your response to that makes your argument better, right? If you hear a good argument and you can still overcome it, wonderful. That's what I mean by be armed. The second somebody starts calling you names, they lost. They lost the argument. I always give people a big smile when they call me a racist or something like that because they don't have anything left. They're not armed. They're unarmed. They're walking around with ideas that were put in there by these fake news trash peddlers, right? These people are trying to give you enough information that you can sound like you know what you're talking about, but it's poison. The right-wingness of this gentleman's ideology is probably not exactly where he was influenced to shoot up the Danforth, in my opinion. Of course, I don't know him, but just based on other facts and other mass shootings I've seen, there seems to be a lot more to this story, right? So people whose heads are full of those things are not armed. All they have are talking points. All they have are what the news told them. They don't have more to the story, and there always is more to the story. And so when you find out more, update your argument, but have your best argument ready. And as soon as they start calling names, you won. Walk away. Okay, so back to Barbara Kay. Don't ever question mass immigration or you'll be racist. You racist. Yep. Immigration is likely to be the hot button issue in the next federal election. The National Post has run a series of editorials noting that our legal immigration channels work well, but the issue of border immigration is eroding public confidence in immigration. One can understand why, because of his kumbaya, quote, post-nationalist susceptibility to the blandishments of one-world idealists. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is perceived by many Canadians as lacking the ability or even the desire to maintain bright lines among the very separate categories of immigrants, refugees, and migrants. Refugees and migrants are big topics, to be sure, but immigration is, policy-wise, the big enchilada. This past weekend, the Globe and Mail's senior political columnist, John Ibbitson, published a buoyant endorsement of the government's current immigration policy, continuing the high rates. Headlined, quote, "Immigration's benefit are a matter of fact. On the basis of certain statistics, he affirms our policies are, quote, working amazingly well. In 2018, for example, 64% of people aged 15 and older who arrived in Canada within the past 5 years were employed. Among those born in Canada, the figure was 63%, so a virtual tie today. Not the case in 2014 when 58% of new arrivals were employed." Ibbitson gives partial credit to the improved figures to the Express Entry initiative introduced by the previous Harper government, which fast-tracks immigrants with a job offer, advanced degrees, field experience, or fluency in French and English. He concedes that a tight job market in recent years has also helped everyone get jobs, but when all factors are taken together, he says the trend towards employment converging between skilled immigrants and the native-born. So everybody's kind of normalizing at that level of employment, and he's saying that's a win. Okay, so back to the article. The author asked, Herbert Grubble, professor of economics emeritus at Simon Fraser University and senior fellow of the Fraser Institute specializing in immigration, for his opinion about Ibbitson's conclusion. Grubble expressed skepticism with regard to the column's narrow metric of labor force participation. Grubble wrote to me that the improvements cited by Ibbitson are so small that they are likely to have virtually no impact on the fundamentally important effect of immigrants in Canada. Grubble notes that the average income taxes paid by immigrants since 1986 has been about one half of those paid by non-immigrants Canadians. Yet immigrants absorb the same value of government services, not more, as some people would have you believe. So the difference between what immigrants pay in and take out amounts to no less than $5,000 per year per person, he calculates. Do the collective math, and Grubble estimates that it comes to an annual $30 billion payout. Neither Grubble nor I, nor any reasonable Canadian believe immigration is a bad thing in itself. We're all for it. And reasonable people understand that first-generation immigrants can be a financial drag on the system at the price of investment in the second and third generation who fulfill their promise and become value added to Canada in all ways. That has always been the traditional premise on which immigration policies were based and on which their public acceptance rested. But what happens if the number of immigrants should exceed the capacity of the country's ability to absorb them? It isn't orderly immigration that sets many Canadians' teeth on edge. It's mass immigration promoted as good in and of itself without regard to our actual present and future needs or interests. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants now arrive each year. In Vancouver alone, they require 300 housing units every week. This can only drive up housing costs and add to the crowding in our hospitals. It can also reshape our cultural ecology of old neighborhoods, which residents seem generally fine with when it happens more naturally over time, but find it very jarring when it happens with unsettling rapidity. I recognize that raising any, quote, cultural factor like this is a red flag to those progressives who insist that culture is a construct of privilege and trying to protect the culture we have is an act of bigotry. But discussing it shouldn't be off limits. People all over the world desire to live in Canada because of its stability, prosperity, gender equality, excellent quality of life, and respect for the law, and all these national qualities are downstream from culture. It is perfectly legitimate to worry that high rates of immigration to Canada could undermine the very tenets of equality, freedom, and justice, those products of our own culture that attract so many in the first place. And I scroll down. Often, we also feel like stooges of politicians who claim to be focused on immigrants' value to Canada, but who are really focused on immigrants as voters. And we feel frustrated because rational discussion of immigration does not seem possible when any and all objections are met with mantras like diversity is our strength at the top, and because we are not allowed to talk about these things without incurring charges of racism. And that's where she leaves it. So it's interesting. And as I said, when I was introducing this article, my conclusion is get your armor on. Be armed, have the sharpest argument ready that you can, and not an argument to shut the person down and prove how right you are, but get people's brains turning, right? The news says conflicting things. The news says things that don't make sense when you put them together. He has no criminal record, but he was arrested 2 days ago for shoplifting. That's conflicting. Point that out. People, those things bother people, and they start to look and they start to think and they start to wake up. That's the way to do it. And the only way to do it is to be prepared. So get armed, everybody. Be prepared, because this is what 2019 is shaping up to be. Fake news parading as real news, and we've all got to suss out what's real, what's fake, and where exactly is the truth, because it's not obvious anymore, right? Think for yourself, look for the truth for yourself, and hopefully you come to a conclusion that is reasonable, and we can all have a conversation that is reasonable. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Check out Maxime Bernier. I think he's got the best plan for Canada in October of this year for the federal election. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.